What's the matter?
I just don't want to do that.
Well, didn't you have a good time tonight?
Yeah, but I think you better be going home now.
Well, come on. I thought this would be our special night.
I just think we've gone far enough.
Well, I thought you liked me.
Well, it's not that.
Well, no one will know except the two of us. I think you'd enjoy it.
I know.
Well, then why not?
I don't know. I just feel funny about it.
I didn't know you were that straight. If you don't like me, we don't have to go out
Don't
anymore,
be
you
like
know.
that. You know I like you.
Well, look, you get me all worked up, and then you say you don't want to do it. I don't like girls that play games.
I wasn't playing games. I just want you to go home now.
I didn't figure you for someone with a sexual hang-up.
I don't have a hang-up.
How do you know if you haven't had sex?
Well, I hadn't said I hadn't had sex.
Look, I didn't hold out on you. Do you know how much I spent tonight?
I know. I had a really wonderful time.
Yeah, well, you have a funny way of showing it.
I'm really sorry.
You know something? You're really beautiful. I mean, you turned me on the first time I saw you. I wasn't going to tell you this, but I think I'm in love with you.
Really?
Do you love me?
Yes, I do.
If you love me, you'll prove it. Just relax. I won't hurt you.
I think I should.
Back to the Art Warren Show, and our guest today, Dr. Joan Kaufman of the Louise Chester Teen Counseling Center in Oakdale. There's a caller on line 2. Go ahead, you're on the air with Dr. Joan Kaufman. What's your name, please?
This is Debbie, and I was wondering if you have any advice for girls who have trouble handling a situation, like when a guy really wants to do it, and you don't want to, but, well, in the end you do.
Yes, you mean that you have the intention of not having sex, but somehow you get talked into it.
Yeah.
Well, if you're doing something, Debbie, that you don't want to do, I would guess that on some level you haven't really clearly decided what it is that you do want. And this is more of a process of becoming aware of who you are and who you want to be and what's in your own best interest. See, the choices you make determine who you are. You decide what you'll eat, what you won't eat, what clothes you'll wear, whether or not you'll use drugs or alcohol, whether you'll smoke or not. And whether you know it or not, you do have some kind of ideal of what kind of person you'd like to be. Now, eventually, you face the decision of when to have intercourse. And this is a particularly difficult decision because it's one that's very personal and must be made on the basis of this self-knowledge that I'm talking about. Now, if you don't have a clear notion of what is right and wrong behavior for you right now, you can end up doing what you don't want to do. Keep this in mind. Unless you're a very unusual person, you're not deciding yes or no about sex. We can assume that you'll have as much sex as you want during your lifetime. You're just deciding when it's right to have sex. Now, there's no rush. You were born a sexual being, and you're going to be one until the day you die. And in each stage of your life, you'll have different needs relative to this very unique person that you are. Do you understand what I mean?
Yeah.
Now, the choice of when to begin to have intercourse is a difficult one, again, because of the risks involved. 1 out of 10 teenagers becomes pregnant. You probably know someone that's pregnant. And for a teenage girl that's pregnant, the choices suddenly become very few and very serious. I'm talking about abortion, adoption, dropping out of school, raising a child in your parents' home, raising a child on welfare, going into a teenage marriage. And the other risk you have to consider, of course, is the growing rate of VD among teenagers. There's gonorrhea, much of the time showing no symptoms in women. Herpes, I read this morning, it's called the leprosy of sexuality. These are things that are on the rise. These are very, very real threats. Now, this doesn't mean that all these things happen to all girls that have intercourse. You know that isn't true. But what you should know is that the risk is there for everyone, and especially for girls who aren't ready yet. And there are an awful lot of those girls. I see them in my office every morning. Some of these girls simply lack the techniques of how to say no, being assertive, you know, and making it stick. Others find themselves getting into a sexual relationship for the wrong reasons.
This is Art Warren, back again with Dr. Joan Kaufman, and I've got a question. Dr. Kaufman, really now, is everybody doing it, or is it just talk?
Well, yes and no. Among young teenagers, 14 to 17, that group, the majority really aren't doing it.
And how come you hear so much about it?
Well, because the pressure is to be sexually active, there's no doubt about that. But in fact, there are a lot of girls who've decided to postpone sex. They make up a kind of silent majority. They have their reasons, but you don't hear about them because it isn't the cool thing to do, you know.
Because of peer pressure and all that.
Yeah, right. I think that has a lot to do with it.
Well, I really love my boyfriend, and sometimes we'll be together, and we get kind of worked up, you know. But we've talked it over, and I really feel like I'm too young to deal with having sex. And I just want to wait for a while, and so does he.
I wasn't ready for it the first time. It was messy, and it hurt, and I didn't feel very good about myself afterwards.
Well, I was brought up to believe that it's wrong to have sex before you marry. I mean, I don't lay it on anybody else, but that's how I feel about it.
I have this girlfriend who got herpes, and I don't want to risk that, so I'm going to wait.
I don't like the side effects of birth control, and I sure don't want to get pregnant. That's nowhere.
Well, I want to get married and have a lot of kids, and I don't want to get involved with somebody now and mess that up.
But haven't women always been saying no? Isn't that the age-old issue in the battle of the sexes?
Well, sure, I guess you could generalize and say that men have historically tried to pressure women into having sex. But I think the big difference now is that other girls pressure her too. Girls who have had intercourse feel a lot better when all their friends have too. It's only natural. So today a girl is getting it from all angles.
And what about the media? There's a lot of innuendo in advertising.
No one ever says no in an ad or commercial. But in real life, you have to learn to say no if you're going to respect yourself. And, I mean, it's always easier to just go along.
And that's where assertiveness comes in. Holding fast to what you want.
Being clear, yeah, and firm, and not being afraid or embarrassed to repeat what it is that you want, or in this case, what it is that you don't want.
Please don't.
What's the matter?
I just don't want to go any farther.
Well, didn't you have a good time tonight?
Well, I had a great time, but I don't want to go any farther.
Well, why not? I thought this would be our special night.
Well, I just think things are getting a little heavy. I don't want to make it with you.
Well, I thought you liked me.
I do like you. I just don't want to have sex.
No one would know except the two of us. I think you'd enjoy it.
I might. But I don't want to do it.
Why not?
I don't have to give you a reason. I just don't.
Well, I didn't know you were that straight. I mean, if you don't want to go out with me anymore, you don't have to.
I'm sorry you're mad, because I really like you. I just don't want to go all the way.
Well, look, you get me all worked up, and then you say you don't want to do it. I don't like girls that play games.
I'm really sorry if that's what you think I did.
I didn't figure you for someone with a sexual hang-up.
How does my not wanting to make it with you mean I have a sexual hang-up?
Well, you're not turned on, are you?
I am turned on, and that's why I want to stop before we go any farther.
Yeah, well, it's not that easy for guys, you know what I mean? I mean, once we get turned on, we got to go all the way.
I know that's not true, and I'm not going to do it.
Look, I didn't hold out on you. Do you know how much I spent tonight?
I know you spent a lot, and I had a wonderful time, but I'm not going to make it with you.
You know something? You're really beautiful. I mean, you turned me on the first time I saw you. I wasn't going to tell you this, but I think I'm in love with you.
I think a lot of you, too. But I think if you loved me, you respect my feelings.
What makes you think I don't respect you?
Because if you did, you wouldn't pressure me into going all the way when I don't want to.
Okay, so you don't want to make it. Woman's got a mind all her own. I'll say that for you. But don't say I don't respect you, because I do. What do you got to eat?
We're back on the air with Dr. Joan Kaufman of the Louise Chester Teen Counseling Center. Dr. Kaufman, I know that some girls can stay in control of an emotional situation, but not everyone has that ability.
Yes, they do, Art. Every girl has her own particular way of being assertive. The secret is to know what you want and then to stick to it.
Maybe you didn't understand me. I said no way.
I don't believe in sex before marriage. And if that's your only interest in me, you better forget it.
I just don't feel that way about you. And I'm not going to do it.
We have a caller on line 1. Go ahead, you're on the air with Dr. Kaufman.
Hi, my name is Sue. I was fairly loose when I started high school, and now I get the feeling that guys just take me out for one reason, you know. It really bums me out. Is it possible to change that? I mean, right now, you know, they expect it.
Sue, this is one of the most common problems I hear. No, just because you've had sex, I don't care how many times, you don't have to keep having it. There are hundreds of ways to show a person that you care about them without having sex. But remember, if that's all you're offering, that's all that's going to be taken. You can change your way of relating to boys at any time. You always have the last say in what you do with your body.
Joan, didn't you say you were going to give us an address where our listeners could send for a questionnaire that would help them find out if they were ready for sex?
Well, no, actually, I don't have enough for that, but I'll go one better. If it's all right with you and we have time, I'd like to read the questions now over the air and let your listeners answer them right now.
That's great, Dr. Kaufman. Okay, if you're a teenage girl, put down what you're doing, sit back in your chair, and take this 1-minute quiz. You don't have to answer out loud.
How will I feel about myself if I have sex? What would I do if I found out I were pregnant? What would my parents think if they found out I was having sex? Is anyone pushing me into having sex? What would I do if I recognized that I had the symptoms of VD? And here's the big one. Could having a relationship which includes intercourse affect my own personal goals, hopes, and dreams for the future?
I guess I never thought about all the things women have to consider.
Well, I think people sometimes misinterpret what they really want. See, all of us want closeness, tenderness, the feeling of being special to someone. These needs are part of being a human being, and to a great extent they can be satisfied without having intercourse. I think loving a person means sharing your feelings with that person about a whole lot of things in life, including sex and what you think is right for you. If a guy doesn't respect a girl's feelings about this, she should find someone who does. And I'd like to say to the girls listening that throughout history, women have had to say yes to a lot of things they didn't like.
See you tomorrow.
But no more. It's your right to say no. And if you don't want to have intercourse, this is a good time to begin.
And we are out of time, and I want to thank you, Dr. Kaufman of the Louise Chester Teen Counseling Center, for being with us today. And I'll be back tomorrow with another guest. News is next. Bye for now.